And I have tried many times to explain what a moment like that means to a little girl.
You're listening to Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman on the Land of Israel Network.
Hello and welcome to Inside Israel Today here on the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com on another beautiful day here in sunny Jerusalem when it's cold everywhere around the world. We are enjoying our beautiful weather over here and watching what's going on in a lot of places and frankly not jealous. And that's certainly true of much of America that looks so cold from over here. I know my family has been sending really scary looking pictures of the way Chicago has looked. And a few days ago, they sent pictures of them watching the Golden Globe Awards. And I understand that at the Golden Globe Awards, the big news was the speech of Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, the talk show host, gave apparently a very inspiring speech when she accepted her Lifetime Achievement Award, when she became the first African-American woman to ever receive that award. Here is an excerpt from that speech that people across America are talking about.
In 1964, I was a little girl sitting on the linoleum floor of my mother's house in Milwaukee, watching Anne Bancroft present the Oscar for Best Actor at the 36th Academy Awards. She opened the envelope and said 5 words that literally made history. The winner is Sidney Poitier. Up to the stage came the most elegant man I had ever seen. I remember his tie was white, and of course his skin was black, and I'd never seen a black man being celebrated like that. And I have tried many times to explain what a moment like that means to a little girl, a kid watching from the cheap seats as my mom came through the door, bone-tired from cleaning other people's houses. But all I can do is quote and say that the explanation in Sidney's performance in Lilies of the Field, amen, 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 amen. In 1982, Sidney received the Cecil B. DeMille Award right here at the Golden Globes, and it is not lost on me that at this moment, there are some little girls watching as I become the first black woman to be given the same award. I'd like to thank the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, because we all know that the press is under siege these days, but we also know that it is the insatiable dedication to uncovering the absolute truth that keeps us from turning a blind eye to corruption and to injustice, to tyrants and victims and secrets and lies. I want to say that I value the press more than ever before as we try to navigate these complicated times, which brings me to this. What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have. In my career, what I've always tried my best to do, whether on television or through film, is to say something about how men and women really behave, to say how we experience shame, how we love and how we rage, how we fail, how we retreat, persevere, and how we overcome. And I've interviewed and portrayed people who've withstood some of the ugliest things life can throw at you, but the one quality all of them seem to share is an ability to maintain hope for a brighter morning, even during our darkest nights.
After that award, and after that speech, where she spoke about what women are going through right now in America and the Me Too movement, there started to be more and more speculation that she might run for president of the United States. NBC tweeted a gif of Winfrey with the words "nothing but respect for our future president." And there was an interview with her longtime partner, Stedman Graham, in the Los Angeles Times, where he said, quote, "It's up to the people. She would absolutely do it." And the Political article, Monday morning, asked, quote, "Why not? We bet she has pretty high approval rating among, well, everyone. She's universally known. She'd raise the money quite easily. She's a billionaire." And I want to tell you listeners here on the Land of Israel Network, on thelandofisrael.com, exactly why not. From my own experiences with Oprah Winfrey. I'm from Chicago, just like Oprah. I remember when she hosted a show called AM Chicago, which was just there in Chicago, nowhere else, before she became known across America and across the world. She very much was a symbol of Chicago, you know. It's very impressive. She's an African-American woman who rose up and became this billionaire. And all along we thought that she is a real inspiring person who really put her heart first and wasn't all about money and ratings the way other talk show hosts were. That's what I thought anyway, until I met her. The story goes, when I was a senior at Ida Crown Jewish Academy, nice Jewish high school, Oprah decided to do a show on the good kids that you don't see on TV and inspire people. You don't normally see good kids on television at all, let alone talk shows. And so they selected kids from Ida Crown. They selected kids from some of the magnet schools. Each school purposely selected some of their best kids that could represent them well on the program. It was a big honor for me to be part of that delegation as the editor of the newspaper there at Ida Crown, and as someone who'd been the vice president of the student council. I'm glad that I was one of the leaders who was chosen. But I think that the research people of Oprah might have made a mistake when they also invited kids from the Chicago Academy of the Arts. Now, the Chicago Academy of the Arts, these are kids who are very artsy, as you might expect, and messed up very often. At the very beginning of the show, it really was about what it was supposed to be about, the good kids that you don't see on TV. And in fact, as part of that, one of the students in our delegation, Sharon Moustakis, the daughter of one of the best teachers that Ida Crown had, Tikva Moustakis, even spoke. Sharon is now a physical therapist in Chicago. But after Sharon spoke, shortly thereafter, the show got taken over by the kids from the Chicago Academy of the Arts, who talked about what they want to talk about why their parents stopped them from sleeping around, why they're upset that their gay lover isn't permitted to move in, why all the experience that they've had with drugs and alcohol and all kinds of things, all complaining about their parents. And the show got out of hand. The show kept on getting more and more intense. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is not what I came for. These are not the good kids that you don't see on TV. But Oprah was encouraging it. Oprah was making sure that these kids would be the ones shown. And by the end of that show, the working title was changed from The Good Kids That You Don't See on TV to Kids and What They Say Behind Their Parents' Backs. That show was run during Sweeps Week. And that show was a shameful, embarrassing, disgusting product that I, to this very day, and I'm 40 now, it's been now 23 years, I'm not over it. That was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and it's because of Oprah. And you know what? I'm not just saying it here. I said it to Oprah. On the way out, to her credit, when audience members leave, Oprah makes a point of shaking their hand. It's a nice thing to do. And so the audience left group by group. I made a point of leaving between groups so I could speak to Oprah. I said to Oprah the following, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Oprah, you should be ashamed of yourself for what you did here. I used to have respect for you, and I'm going to tell the world that you're not who you pretend to be. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing that right here, right now. Oprah is not inspiring. Oprah is disgusting. Oprah is all of what's wrong in America. Oprah is yellow journalism. Oprah is yellow everything. Oprah highlights all of what's wrong, of this focus on making money at all costs, about money mattering more than people, taking advantage of children in order to make that money, putting a show that's just intended to shock people, to appeal to the lowest standards. Oprah is everything that's wrong with America, ladies and gentlemen. And someone has to stop her. Someone has to stop this. You know, Donald Trump is also very much a part of that culture. And America got that, and it's going to get more of that just from the left-wing side if the movement to draft Oprah into politics emerges successful. I'm sure that there have been thousands of Sharon Mustakises over the years who've been victimized, who are the prey of the viciousness of Oprah Winfrey. And it's time for these Sharon Mustakises to come out to tell the people around the world who the real Oprah Winfrey is. To tell the world that she's no better than Donald Trump, that she might make herself out to be this freedom fighter for equality, and this person who built herself up by the bootstraps, but she did it by taking advantage of the Sharon Mustakises of the world and tricking them in order to make that money. She is a liar. She is a cheater. And she does not deserve the votes. She should not be allowed in politics. People need to know who the real Oprah Winfrey is. And America deserves better. America needs to go back to being led by the wholesome politicians who build themselves up serving people in public service, not in making money for themselves. Public service has been discredited over the years, but people work hard day in and day out in politics in America, in Israel, around the world, in really genuinely helping people, in listening to the problems that people have and making sure those problems get solved. People ask me all the time, how can you be a political correspondent for almost 20 years now? Haven't you become jaded? Haven't you become cynical? Haven't you become sarcastic? Maybe a little bit, but no. Because I've gotten to see genuine public servants who care so much about helping people. And, with your politics, you can like or not like some of them, across the political map. But you have to be impressed by who they are. Look, I've seen, I don't really feel comfortable giving examples, especially right now, people in politics. I don't want to take one side or another. But I'll give an example of Marina Solodkin. Because, she was from Yisrael, a political party that, isn't remembered as having a big influence on the more divisive issues like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Marina was an immigrant from the former Soviet Union who came here and just helped Russian immigrants day in and day out. She helped them nonstop until she died while she was abroad at a conference helping these Russian immigrants. She never looked particularly good health-wise. She worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, helping people. And I'm really sorry that she's not around anymore. The world needs more Marina Solotkins in politics, and the world needs fewer Oprah Winfreys. And so I hope that America will get its head together, whether the next president of the United States is going to be a Democrat or Republican, a man or a woman, a Christian, a Jew, or something else. I hope that the next president of the United States is a committed public servant who puts the people of America first. The opposite of Oprah Winfrey. After the break, we're going to talk about what's going on behind the scenes in Israeli politics, as we do here on Inside Israel Today, on the Land of Israel Network, on thelandofisrael.com.
Who are we as a people? Who are we as a nation? What does it mean to be a Jew in the land of Israel, as a Jew in Judea? What is our message to the world? We're finally back in our land, and we get to ask these questions.
Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to make Judea and Samaria an issue for the entire world, to know that the Jews have a place in the world.
Israel Inspired with Ari Abramowitz and Jeremy Gimpel on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.
Don't let them big guitars and drive them old trucks. Make them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
And we're back here on Inside Israel Today on the Land of Israel Network, on thelandofisrael.com. That song, Moms, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, is a very nice song about, it's not easy being a cowboy. I can understand why parents wouldn't want their children to go into that profession. And I want to talk about whether moms should want their children to grow up to be politicians. Because we talked in the first part of the show of the ultimate example of what I don't want politicians to be, which is Oprah Winfrey. I gave an example of what the kind of person I would like politicians to be, which the late Marina Solodkin. But what's going on over the last few weeks at the Knesset has been that the coalition of Netanyahu has been quite weak. Netanyahu's government is going through a tough time temporarily. It needs to be passing some bills that allow each party in the coalition to present an accomplishment in the next election whenever that takes place. A lot of these bills are completely meaningless. It will have no real impact on the lives of anyone, but each party is going to pretend that they did something important. The Bayit Yehudi party will talk about the Jerusalem bill, even though it's got some loopholes in it that make this bill requiring there to be 80 members of Knesset to give up any territory actually quite meaningless. Shas will talk about its mini-market bill that could result in some stores being closed on Shabbat that weren't before, but really, really won't. Yisrael Beitenu can talk about its death penalty bill that theoretically could give the state prosecution more of a chance to give death sentences to terrorists, but no one really thinks it will. And there's already a death penalty bill that could allow those same prosecutors to give the death penalty to terrorists. Anyway, everyone's kind of going through the motions, passing things that actually don't change anything. And the opposition, sensing this weakness, has kept the members of Knesset working very hard, up all night voting. And that's what happened again last night. The voting this morning ended around 8 o'clock in the morning. It started 4 p.m. yesterday. That's awful. We're talking 16 hours of debates in the Knesset, but most of the time voting, because there were hundreds of amendments on this bill on the mini markets. That meant that for hours, the members of Knesset were pressing buttons, voting the same thing over and over and over again. And there was a narrow majority, 58 to 57, so no one could really even leave the room to pee. That is not fun. And at least half of the members of Knesset were voting the opposite of what they actually believe in. They were voting according to their faction discipline, according to their coalition discipline. And I felt terrible for these people. A lot of them are voting against their conscience over and over and over again, pressing a button, pressing a button, pressing a button. It's not as glamorous as being a member of Knesset is supposed to be, right? And the same thing happened with the recommendations bill that was advanced by the Likud that theoretically would make the police not issue recommendations, which they don't really do anyway, about especially about public figures, about whether to indict them, ahead of the Attorney General making the actual decision about whether to indict them. Another meaningless bill that really doesn't change anything. Over and over again. This is after there was a filibuster of the opposition for 20-something hours, no, 40-something hours. They were going on and on and on and just talking about how stupid the bill was and having gimmicks, like one of the members of parliament reading from the Book of Lamentations, first in his regular accent, then in the accent that's Yemenite of his family. You had a member of Knesset just read messages from WhatsApp. All kinds of just stupid gimmicks that the members of parliament were doing. Does this make people respect the parliament more? I don't think so. Does this make people want to be members of Knesset? I don't think so. They're not exactly acting lately like public servants. Now, this is a temporary thing, because now they're going to start talking about the state budget, which really affects people's lives here, day in and day out. Yesterday, Netanyahu spoke to his faction, and he begged them, basically. He said, please don't object to anything in this budget. We have to pass it. This is what will allow my government to continue. I'm sure you'll all have objections. Even the foreign minister has objections, Netanyahu said, which is a cute joke. He's the foreign minister. But please let us just be able to move on. And if Netanyahu indeed succeeds in passing this budget, then he will really have freedom. There'll be nothing to topple him over except for the criminal investigations that keep on getting postponed. We don't know when the police recommendations are actually going to happen. Right now they're saying Passover. So now we've gotten into April here. And they say that the Attorney General will only issue his actual indictment or not indictment 6 months after the police issue the recommendation. So now we're already at the very end of 2018. Netanyahu will already pass up David Ben-Gurion as the longest-serving prime minister in Israel's history on September 23rd of 2018. It's a foregone conclusion if the budget passes in its first reading this Thursday. And so once that happens, the politics will become a little bit less exciting for a little bit. But what this whole thing of the members of Knesset and what they're going through makes me feel, you know what, maybe being a member of Knesset is not all people make it out to be. It's a lot of rubber stamping decisions made by others. Their ability to actually make changes that affect the people's lives is a little bit more limited than people give it credit for. It's really, really not that big a deal. And so, look, we're going to continue at the Jerusalem Post and here on the Land of Israel Network telling you what's going on behind the scenes in Israeli politics. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's not as exciting as we try to make it look for you guys. There's a lot of boredom there. That being said, I can tell you I think I had a fun time yesterday at the Knesset. One thing that we at the Jerusalem Post have always done in my time there is really make our readers around the world be aware of any Anglos who run for Knesset, anybody from any English-speaking country. And so in the current Knesset, we have 2 American-born members of Knesset, in Michael Oren, the former ambassador of Israel to the United States, and Yehuda Glick, who's been here on Inside Israel Today on the Land of Israel Network. But people are less aware that there's a member of Knesset who's from Canada. Sharon Haskell is Canadian, lives in Kfar Saba, really raised there, but she was born in Canada and lived for a period of time also in Australia, where she got her veterinary degree. And Sharon Haskell has been part of the news this week because she said her conscience prevented her from voting in favor of this mini markets bill that she believes would change the status quo and discriminate between different communities in Israel. And so because we've promoted Sharon Haskell in the Likud, we've, as we would with any English speaker or Anglo who runs, we certainly highlighted her effort to defend herself when the chairman of the Likud faction, David Amsalem, tried to get her expelled from the party. And so yesterday, when I was at the Knesset, when we went to the different faction meetings, we have the opportunity to ask questions of the party leaders at these faction meetings. I said to Yair Lapid when my turn came, might you have room here in your Yesh Atid faction for someone who fights for the secular public in Israel and who is served in the border police and who might be looking soon for a job? I'm asking for a friend. Now, the members of Knesset and the press in the room started laughing because of the subtle way I asked that question. Yair Lapid had no idea who I was talking about. I guess wasn't so informed about Sharon Haskell and what was going on in the news. Explained it to him afterward. I asked the same question in a different kind of way to Avigdor Lieberman. Avigdor Lieberman, his party was very much against this bill, even though they're part of the coalition. They voted against it. And I said, you've got an ally in the coalition against this bill, and Sharon Haskell. Might there be a place for her in your party? Though I said, of course, you yourself, Avigdor Lieberman, don't decide, even though he really does, who his members of Knesset are. You've got a committee that decides that. They always say in Yisrael Beitenu, might it be a good idea for Sharon Haskell to present herself to that committee in the next election? And he said, well, I hope she stays in Likud. She's got some friends over there. He took the kind of subtle tongue-in-cheek thing very seriously. And so that's the opportunity we get when we get to ask questions to these party leaders. So in that way, we get to have a little fun there behind the scenes in the Knesset. I said it's been a pleasure taking you, as we do every week here on Inside Israel Today, behind the scenes in Israeli politics, the fun parts and the boring parts that there are. So moms, maybe think twice about letting your children grow up to be cowboys and to be politicians, but if they have a tremendous desire for public service, if they want to be like Marina Solodkin, if they want to be less Oprah Winfrey, then be my guest. Let them enter politics, whether they're in Israel, whether they're in America, and hopefully they'll make both countries better. We shouldn't be jaded. We shouldn't be sarcastic. There are great public servants out there in both countries, and hopefully we'll continue to be inspired by them. Thank you for being with us here on Inside Israel Today on the Land of Israel Network, on thelandofisrael.com. We'll be back here next week with more fun from behind the scenes, Inside Israel.